been in a reading slump for the last 2 months. February and March, we're not hitting, you know what I mean? We're not hitting as hard as we'd like to with our reading. So I'm going to challenge myself, because this is the best way to get myself back on that train, by reading book talk recommendations for the next 3 days on this little weekend situation. I use TikTok, but I actively avoid book talk because the idea of another social media platform of mine being controlled in any way by books and reading makes me feel really, really depressed. I pulled these books not from book talks because, like I said, I'm afraid of screwing up my algorithm, but from Goodreads lists and also from a Barnes & Noble curated list. The first book I have on here is The Young Elites by Marie Lu. I had Marie Lu on my last challenge video I did in January, where I read old YA books that were popular that I missed out on, so it just felt right. Next we have Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I had already wanted to read this. Everyone I know who's read it has really loved it. Next we have Cersei by Madeleine Miller. Technically the one that kept coming up was Song of Achilles, but I'm more interested in reading Cersei, so I have replaced it with Cersei. Next we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I had never heard of this book, but it was on a bunch of lists, and it was also at my library. Next we have These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. It wasn't at my library. I think I have to buy this one on Libro FM, but I'm okay with that. Next we have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I technically used to own this book and read about 50 pages of it and couldn't get through it, but I feel like I could probably get through it now. I also have The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Attia on this list. This is a book that's been on my TBR for a long time, and it was on like one book talk list, so I just included it because I wanted to read it. But I think it counts. I feel like book talk, if they're not talking about it, would talk about it. So I feel good about that. And then finally, the book that I'm most afraid of that's on this list is A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'll see y'all tomorrow when I start this journey on a lovely Friday morning.
Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas.
So the fairies are cannibals? Or are they cannibals if they're eating humans and they're fairies? The fairies are sort of proto-human cannibals. Fairy-loving whore. Now, from the Read with Cindy videos I've watched and from the general discourse, I'm assuming this is foreshadowing. It's a face. What does it mean? Looks like a little monkey. Anyway. Am I supposed to like her? Because I think she's super annoying. These cannibal fairies are stuck in masks. Is this like Beauty and the Beast, but instead of being inanimate objects, they're stuck in masquerade masks? Honestly iconic, also hilarious. Farah is an idiot. She is super annoying. I don't like her, but this book is kind of interesting. She just said her bowels went watery. She's really annoying. Why does she not trust anyone? I truly don't understand why the big bad fairy, who's also a werewolf and who seems like a soft boy, is interested in Freya, because Freya, like, her personality is just not trusting people, and her other personality is the promise she made to her mother to protect her family, and her other bit of personality is that she killed his best friend. Like, does he, like, respect that, like, she's a murderer? She did something nice and repented for her sins, and I've also been saying her name wrong. It's not Freya, it's Freya? I'm listening to the audiobook and it still is not sticking. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of Farah from Teen Mom and Tamlin. I got to the character reasoned. All of these names just do not percolate right in my mind. Anyway, I've heard of this character from Twitter. So. This is both a very lazy plot and a very convoluted one, and also a very fun plot. It somehow manages to do all three, so we love the range. I have like 12-ish chapters left. We're getting there.
My fingers into the water. It came out clean. I shuddered, allowing myself a moment to slump over my knees before I dumped some of the water onto the floor.
And this last part is so excruciatingly boring. I'm so bored. This whole trial thing is ridiculous. I have been done with The Court of Thorn and Roses for hours, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I don't feel like talking about it yet. I should just talk about it. Alright, I'm gonna talk about it. What did I like about this book? The pacing for 75% of it was good. The world building, I think, very clear. The characters, mostly likable. I really liked the sister dynamics. I thought those were interesting. I didn't even completely hate the romance. By the end, I was like, they've grown to love each other. That's kind of sweet. Those are all well and good. Reasons why I think people really love these books. Reasons why I can see people really loving these books. What didn't work for me? The last 25% of this book. The last 25% of this book dragged in a way that was viscerally painful, as you will remember. The fact that Miss Sarah J. Maas does like a switcheroo with one of the characters, makes Rysand, I can't say anybody's name in this book, Rysand becomes like kind of a good guy, and he's a total cretin and creep, and then he becomes a good guy. And I know from the discourse that he's being set up to be a good guy, and that our good man Tommy Lee Jones, is being set up to be a bad guy in the second book, despite the fact he's not really set up to be a bad guy. In this book, the point is, what? And I did laugh out loud at the Beauty and the Beast retelling that occurs in this book unexpectedly and also expectedly. Anyway, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. Will I read the other books? Well, I need time to recover. Yeah, 7 to 10 business days to be preferred. So, day 1 of what should be 3 days. We'll see if this turns into 4 if I get nothing else read. And I finished 1 book. I'm gonna go start The Wrath and the Dawn and probably fall asleep while reading it. So I will update you all tomorrow. I do actually have stuff to do tomorrow, so this should be interesting. I haven't read anything today, but I did read 30% of the way into The Wrath and the Dawn last night while in bed and stayed up too late. Not a ton of thoughts about the book so far. Are they setting up the king whose whole deal is that he murders his brides the day after he marries them to be secretly actually a redeemable guy, and the main character whose whole point for marrying him was to avenge the death of her best friend and also kill him as a main love interest? Yes. Do I feel very conflicted about this? No, because I think it's bad. And I'm hoping that's not actually the situation and she isn't getting into a love triangle with the lovable childhood best friend guy who's trying to save her and is the obvious choice, and a murderous king who literally murders women. Also, the king sleeps with her every night, and she's a hostage, basically. So, yikes. Take away the fact that he has to murder these girls, you know what I mean? He has to murder them. He also is like just a violent guy, like he just punched his best friend in the face. It's 6 p.m. and I finished The Wrath of the Dawn. The Wrath and the Dawn. The Wrath and the Dawn. And I mostly really enjoyed it. This is a YA book that came out in like 2015. It's a retelling or a reimagining of Arabian Nights. And it basically is about a young woman named Shahrazad who is seeking revenge because her best friend has died and a bunch of other young women have died due to this king killing them. At least that's what it seems like on the surface. I found this to be quite dramatic, quite intense, and in some ways the central romance is sort of similar to the Court of Thorn and Roses, and the fact that it is kind of like a Beauty and the Beast moment. But unlike the Court of Thorn and Roses, this book I think does a more effective job with having a real monster. Having this person who has done monstrous things for a good reason and for a good cause, but also has still done those monstrous things. And you have this main character, Shahrazad, who like genuinely is conflicted throughout most of this book, not only in her feelings for the king, but also her feelings about what she is going to do about her need to seek revenge. And you have sort of this character in her first love who's trying to save her and does not care about her feelings at all. And that's what I thought was really interesting about this love triangle. When you meet the first love, you're like, oh, he's the good guy. But he never seems to care about Shahrazad and how she feels. Whereas the Monster King really does seem to care about how she feels. So it's very, very interesting. As you could tell, I was very frustrated while reading this because I also felt very conflicted, which I feel like is a sign that this book did what it wanted to do and it did it very well. I overall really enjoyed it. I liked the lushness of it. I liked the way it was written, and I thought that if I had read this at 16 years old, I would have been a pool of like feelings because it was very romantic. Overall, I really enjoyed it. So yay, finished that. I think my next book that I want to start is an audiobook. That book was an ebook, and I want to listen to These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which is the book I know the least amount about, I feel like, in this challenge video. So I started These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm about 11% of the way in. This book, if you don't know what it's about, because I knew nothing going in, it's about two warring mobs and the people who are supposed to inherit the mobs, who are both like, I think, young, like teenagers. They have some beef from the past. There's some magical, scary stuff happening. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's my favorite of the books I have read so far at this point. So love that. Okay. Avoid the madness, get vaccinated. This book is really coming for 2021 and 2020. It is currently 11 p.m. I am now 40% of the way into the audiobook for These Violent Delights. I am really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the mob aspect. I'm enjoying that the main character is this very, like, anti-hero woman. I feel like we don't get a lot of anti-heroes, especially in YA, that are women. It's super fun to read someone who's like violent and is a girl. Girl boss. I just mean that specifically though because I've been reading so many books the last couple of days where the male character is the one who has done all the bad stuff and the lady character is kind of like pure. And we don't have that here. We have two characters who have both done screwed up stuff. Then basically darkness descended and I got creeped out because this book is spooky. So I picked up The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, I want to say is the author, which was at my library as an ebook. I didn't know anything about this book, but this book is totally up my alley. It's very Knives Out, it's very The Westing Game. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the fact that I can say those two things and you know immediately what I'm talking about probably. It's just very good and gives me like a lot of Maureen Johnson energy and I love Maureen Johnson, so very pleased about that. I would like more YA books with older sisters so that when they get a love interest who's a hot cowboy in his mid to late 20s, I can fall in love with him. Hello. So I have about an hour left, maybe like 50 minutes of these Violent Delights. I think it's hilarious that the sort of one of the bad guys, if you will, is named Tyler. Just shows you Tyler is not a great name. I am going to go to my parents though, because it's Easter. They're fully vaccinated. I'm just gonna sit outside and finish these Violent Delights and also the Inheritance Games and see if I can get through another book, but I'm doubtful. What's the last book you read?
That book you gave me.
The House in the Cerulean Sea?
No, there was another one.
Before that, but you finished that one.
I didn't finish House in the Cerulean Sea because I couldn't find it, and now I found it. But then I read something else I finished. Oh, the one with the Nevermore.
Oh, you read Hollowpox.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think BookTok is? What's the last book you read?
Let me see. Oh, I've been Hawk.
The Hawk book. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I gave you that for
yes.
Christmas. It is currently 3:45 and I finished these Violent Delights by Chloe Gong on audiobook. And I really enjoyed it. I didn't do a ton of updates for this book because I just didn't have a lot to say. I was just taking it in. But overall, I really liked it. I liked the fast-paced nature of it. I liked the mystery, and there's like this pandemic that's happening, which was maybe a little too real. There's also a romance element that I think was really handled in an interesting way. As I previously mentioned, I really like the main character, and I like how complicated she was. Also, this book has a lot of talk of colonialism. It just felt like very topical, and also it felt like historical fiction, which is the best historical fiction, especially historical supernatural fiction. I really, really liked it. But I am going to sit outside, maybe make a margarita, and read The Inheritance Games. And I think that's the last book I'm going to read for this, which I will be happy with. 4 chunky books in 3 days feels like an accomplishment, regardless. Every time I do one of these, I do a margarita moment. This is my margarita mix. It's just become a tradition. So we need to do 3 fluid ounces. Great. Tequila. That's a lot of tequila. Dang. Woo! Where's the lid? Do I have a lid? I haven't even had any alcohol and I can't find this lid. Should I do that? I can't do it. No. What? This feels better, right? I think that worked. I would say overall that was a success. Gonna have a little bit of a little small tequila shot. There's not really much in there. we're here. I am ready now to drink my little margarita and finish this book. So I decided to stay at my parents' this evening because I had alcohol and, being safe. We can tell from the eye makeup that you had alcohol, Emma. And I'm like mostly moved out, but I don't have enough room for all of my books. Like I need to get another bookshelf. And I had a lot of my books underneath the bed that was in here. Like there was a trundle bed and I put them in there, but my mom put them all out. I mean, amazing. If the romance element of this book didn't exist, which I understand that it kind of has to, because it fits into the tropes that occur with this kind of story, but if it didn't exist, I think this book, at 50% of the way in, would be a 5-star read for me. But, like her saying, get your mind out of the gutter, Avery, Grayson Hawthorne is not for you. And just different variations of that about Grayson, who is the villain brother, who is secretly, like, soft-hearted, and then Jameson, the love interest brother, who's quite chaotic and perfect and a manic pixie dream boy. We've got attempted murder! I don't ever want to inherit billions of dollars. Absolutely not. Favorite characters so far? Hot cowboy brother, the sister, Avery's sister. I really do like Avery too, but Avery's sister. The bodyguard, the head of security. I love him. The fan is so loud. One moment. Hello. So it is the next day, and I never updated y'all on the final book that I read, which was The Inheritance Game. I finished it. I loved it. This was such a fun book. I really enjoyed the way it flowed. I loved the mystery. It gave me similar vibes to Knives Out, but it also gave me similar vibes to Truly Devious, which is one of my favorite series. I know I've talked about Maureen Johnson a lot in this video, but I absolutely adored it. It's probably my favorite thing that I read for this challenge, and I read some good stuff. And I'm super excited about the sequel, and I really hope they make it into a TV show, and I love all the characters, and I really enjoyed the mystery, and it was so good and fun. So yeah, I concluded this challenge of reading 4 popular booktok books over the course of like 3 days. I would say overall it was a really positive experience. I read a mix of like new YA and old YA being old, being The Court of Thorn and Roses, or Court of Thorn and Roses, and The Wrath and the Dawn, and new YA being These Violent Delights in the Inheritance Games. And other than The Court of Thorn and Roses, I really enjoyed everything that I read, and I felt like in a really good place with reading the entire time I was doing it. I felt like I was in my zone, and doing these challenges tend to help me get back into a reading zone, and also help to remind me how much I enjoy YA, especially like supernatural or mystery or fantasy YA. It's my favorite genre within YA. So, or genres within YA. Anyway, I would love to know y'all's thoughts about these books, and just generally what you think of this. More challenge videos to come, because this is the mood I'm in. Catching dust. Have a lovely day.